Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of For the Health of It, our latest segment on health and wellness that is dedicated to getting important health information out to you and to our community. We hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving weekend and just wishing everybody's blessings. I'm Dr. Trevor Kinlock, and today our topic is Black Beauty and the Big C. Black Beauty and the Big C. I'm so glad again to bring our resident healthcare professional here today, Dr. Laverne Bruce. She's going to talk to us a bit about that today. Dr. Bruce, good to have you on today. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me again, Dr. Kinlock. It's always a pleasure.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, so listen, there's a lot of research that's out there, some new research that is out there just about beauty. Can you talk to us about Black Beauty and the Big C? What exactly is that title about?
Well, let's start, for example, with the big C. Obviously, that's cancer. And Black Beauty, we're going to talk about all the things that we as a community do, both men and women, that are harming us in very significant ways, including causing us to have cancer. Now, what is cancer? Some people might say that's obvious because so many people die from cancer. But essentially, our bodies have cells, which are little packets that function, and they turn over all the time. And every now and then, one of them does not recreate itself properly. Normally, our immune system will take care of all of those. We have soldiers called our immune system. They patrol our blood, our tissues, and they knock out anything that doesn't look like us. But once in a while, one of those cells can escape. And then once it starts to grow and then it develops a blood system, it becomes what we call a cancer. And the reason why cancers are bad, it's that those cells which belong in one particular area and are supposed to do a particular function, they then move to areas where they're not supposed to be, and they're not functioning. And they're not functioning properly, or they are functioning in a way that's very detrimental to that system. For example, rest cells in the brain.
Okay.
So that's why cancer is such a very dangerous problem and why it can eventually cause our demise.
Thank you. Thank you so much for helping us to understand that. So can you talk to us just about cosmetic products and which cosmetic products are known to increase the risk of cancer?
Okay. Now, in the Black community, hair is a major, major issue. And it comes definitely from our African culture, where hair was part of tribal recognition and it was part of status. So hair has always been very important to us. Now, unfortunately, during slavery, we developed this concept of the nappy hair. And I did not know this myself, but I recently learned that the flower that is within the cotton plant is called a nap. And so Black people's hair began to be called nappy because it resembled the cotton bud. And so with the power dynamic between master and slave, unfortunately, straight hair became desirable and quote unquote nappy hair became undesirable. So it was for us as a people, in order to be acceptable, to conform to that stereotype of the straight hair.
Right.
And so eventually in the 1800s, we developed a hot comb. And I remember as a little girl holding my ears and having patches of my hair burnt out as my mom tried to straighten my hair with that hot comb. Around 1909, a very enterprising sewing machine operator called Garrett Morgan, he developed a chemical that he was using to make sewing machines more slippery, basically, and to work better. And he realized that that substance that he had created, which included lye, which is the same thing that's in Drano, that substance actually straightened your hair. And he began to market that as the black hair refiner. And that stayed under the radar for a while, but in the 40s and 50s, and definitely in the 60s, Black people began to use these products very, very often, starting even as very young children. I remember as a little girl in the Caribbean getting fans from the funeral home, and they would have pictures, beautiful pictures of African American families. And it always struck me that the little girls always had their hair straightened. So it's been a part of our culture for a long time, the straightening of the hair. But there are also other beauty products that contain multiple chemicals that can be detrimental. So for example, today I looked at a moisturizer that I had and I realized, and listen to this number, It had 72 different chemicals.
Wow.
I looked at a body wash that I had and it had 40 different chemicals. So
Mm-hmm.
just using those two products alone, I've exposed my body to over 100 different chemicals.
Okay.
So it is definitely an area for concern.
Okay. So Dr. Bruce, is that perhaps a easy way for kind of laypersons to understand what may be healthy or not healthy for them? Just look at the amount of ingredients or chemicals that are in a particular product.
Absolutely. And whether you can pronounce them or not. If
Mm-hmm.
you can't pronounce them and it's not a natural chemical like shea butter or, olive oil or one of these things, something that you're familiar with, then you do have to raise that question.
Very important. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Now we're going to talk a little bit later about specific chemicals that you do need to avoid, but let's look at some of the research that has come out about these hair relaxers in particular.
Yeah.
Now, around the 2000 or so, there was a study done, which people are now digging up, which showed that hair relaxers cause staphylococcus infections on the scalp. Now, every Black woman who's had her hair relaxed knows that you get big patches of your scalp sometimes that get burned out, and you end up with pain for days, but we tolerated it for the sake of beauty.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was an article that came out from the American Journal of Epidemiology in 2012, which showed that in a certain percentage of women, there was a strong relationship between the use of hair relaxers and the prevalence of uterine fibroids in Black women. And it was around this time when this information started to come out, we started to see a shift towards women using more of their natural hair. But in the last 2 years, we've had the most devastating studies that have come out. In 2021, there was a study that came out of Boston University, which showed among 59,000 African American women a strong association between the use of hair relaxers and breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And then most recently, in October of this year, 2022, there was a long-term study done by the NIH with over 30,000 Black women, over 30,000 women,
Mm-hmm.
showing a very strong relationship, not causality,
Mm-hmm.
but a very strong relationship between the frequent use of hair relaxers and endometrial cancers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's also a secondary part to that. Some of the hair relaxers have substances that we would call endocrine disruptor chemicals, or EDCs.
Mm-hmm.
And we had talked about this on one of our previous talks when we talked about plastics and how plastics have a chemical in them called phthalates, PTHALAT, which are added to the plastics to make them flexible. Well, those same chemicals are known to be endocrine disruptors, and they are found in hair relaxers and multiple other hair products.
Wow.
Even
Wow.
conditioners, lotions, and things like that.
Wow.
The endocrine disruptors are significant to know because they are supposedly related now to infertility, endometriosis, reproductive dysfunction, and things in that area. So those also can be related to cancers because with endocrine disruptions, Black women do tend to have a higher incidence of breast cancers and uterine cancers, which are much more aggressive because they're stimulated by endocrine products.
So the research shows that these products are very likely actually killing us.
They
and
are.
They are making us sick and actually causing us to lose our lives.
That's very true.
Wow. Wow. Doc, talk to us about which chemicals should we look to avoid?
Okay, so first of all, like I said, if you can't pronounce them, think twice.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, look for more natural products, things that you recognize, different healthy oils and shea butter, cocoa butter, things like that. But in particular, some of the ones you want to avoid, anytime you see the word phthalate, PTHALATE, think twice before using that product. There are about 10 that we can think about. One would be parabens, which are found in shampoos. Another one would be polyethylene glycol, which we see a lot in shampoos and lotions and conditioners. A big one is formaldehyde. And formaldehyde stood out to me because formaldehyde is what you use to preserve cadavers. When I was in medical school, you always knew who the first year medical students were because they smelled of formaldehyde because our cadavers were preserved in that. And it just shocks me to think that formaldehydes are placed in healthcare, in cosmetic
Yeah.
products.
Yeah.
Synthetic fragrances. This is one that really shocked me. There is an association. Now, in the past, when people wanted fragrances, you found something natural, rose oil, lavender oil, jasmine oil. But the synthetic fragrances are simply chemicals that smell good. So there is a word of caution about those.
Okay.
Now, aluminum, anything that says aluminum, one has to be very cautious. Aluminums are often found in deodorants, underarm deodorants. And so these are products that we use every day, sometimes twice a day. But aluminum has a very, very strong association with Alzheimer's disease. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
And then if there's any sign of coal tar dyes, those one has to be very careful about because those are also found in cigarettes and those are known to cause lung cancer. And of course, lye, which is in the hair relaxers. We have to be very cautious about.
Wow. Wow. So we know this, that Black Beauty products are big business. Cosmetic products are big business. What are the legal implications then of this latest research that's come out? And it's made the connection now. What are the legal implications of this research?
Well, once you find the lawyers involved and once you start seeing advertisements on television, you know that there's a lot there. So there is actually a very big lawsuit that has been filed. Actually, let me find the number for you. It's very interesting. It's the Hair Relaxer Products Liability Litigation Case number 3060. And that has been filed against 15 different brands of hair relaxers, all the ones we're familiar with when we walk down the aisle at CVS. And they are claiming that these products have endocrine disruptors in them, like phthalates, which cause a negative impact on the male and female reproductive system, that it induces endometriosis, it develops abnormal endocrine function, like early puberty. I remember several years ago when I was in medical school, the question was, why do young Black girls start puberty so much earlier than young Caucasian girls? And this might be a reason for an answer. Reproductive dysfunction, infertility, cancers, and also they're claiming that these products cause metabolic syndrome, which, as you know, is weight loss resistance, along with high blood pressure, diabetes, etc.
Wow.
Sorry, the one other really big legal implication is on the positive side, California passed the Crown Act, where you cannot be discriminated against in the workplace for how you wear your hair. Now, in the past, Black women would always straighten their hair if they felt they wanted to appear more professional because we had been told that our natural hair is not acceptable, that it's not professional, that it doesn't look clean, it doesn't look neat. And so we would straighten our hair in order to fit that narrative. So the Crown Act is allowing us to be ourselves.
Excellent. Excellent. Excellent information, Dr. Bruce. Thank you so much. This was just absolutely valuable. I know that you guys are excited that have heard this just like I am, because this is just important information that we need to have for our community, for our women, for our men, so that, my belief is that when we know better, we do better.
Absolutely.
Now that we are armed with this information, we do trust that we'll make better decisions for our health, for our healthcare, for our beauty, and otherwise. So please, if this was a blessing to you, please share this with someone else. Please like, follow, subscribe, share to us here. But we want to thank you for joining us. And thank you, Dr. Bruce, for coming and sharing this information with us today.
It's always a pleasure, and I hope many, many people are helped by this. We do have to change our habits, and we do have to look much more carefully at what we are putting onto our bodies. Remembering that skin is the biggest absorptive surface. It's just as medications go through your skin the same way they go through your mouth. So we have to be very cautious as to what we put on our skin.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us for another edition of For the Health of It, brought to you by our Metropolitan Health Ministries. May God bless you. May He keep you. And remember, above all things, that God wants you to prosper and to be in health. God bless you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you as always for the opportunity.